The LA Clippers schedule is out for the 2023-24 season. And what does it look like? In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the main takeaways, my initial reaction to the schedule, the beginning of the season, the first 10 games, what those look like for the Clippers, and all the major takeaways, including opening night, our opponent, the Clippers schedule reaction on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and going into my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper, LA Sports, NBA, and NBA history content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube, where I want you to let me know what you think of the Clippers schedule. And oh boy, is it a doozy. And in this one, I'm going to be getting into the main takeaways, the things that stuck out right away, and then looking at the start of the season. Because last season, that was a huge point of emphasis for me when the schedule was released, and I was doing episodes just like this about how we needed to start 8-2 or 7-3 or even 9-1, I was suggesting, in those first 10 games. And I think those first 10 games going 5-5, I think that set a tone for the rest of the season, and the Clippers never really got, in a real groove too much, finishing the season with a 44-38 record, which is just not all that. But also opening night, going to be looking into that, previewing that a little bit. But let's get into the main takeaways right away. And the main takeaways, and what every Clipper fan wants to know, is how many back-to-backs do we have? Because of Kawhi Leonard's load management, because of the injuries to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, the back-to-back conversation is a loud one. And this season, the LA Clippers have 15 back-to-backs, which is the same as last season, which was second in the NBA last year. The funny thing is, I'm not 100% sure if that's the most of any team this year, but Warriors fans on my Twitter timeline and Laker fans, they were each saying that they had the most back-to-backs, but they had the exact same amount as us, 15. So my whole timeline was flooded with fans of each of those three fan bases complaining about the fact that they had 15 back-to-backs. And look, that might be the highest. I haven't checked, but it's up there regardless, right? And here's what I have to say about that. It absolutely sucks. That's what I have to say about that. It absolutely sucks that a team in which our best player, it has a very noted knee condition, which prevents him from playing, which I shouldn't say prevents him, but makes it a huge risk to play him on back-to-backs, over the course of a season. And the fact that we have one of the most back-to-backs of any team in the league yet again just feels like a slap in the face to a degree. But at the end of the day, I think as a fan base, we need to stop making so many excuses about the schedule. I think that's one thing that's going to be a theme for me in this episode. I hope to, get across, is that we need to stop making so many excuses about the schedule. The NBA schedules have only gotten lighter for players. Things have only become easier for players in terms of transportation, in terms of recovery, in terms of personnel. We're not talking about an era in which people had to play back-to-backs in the postseason, which was a thing at one point, even to the 80s. So this is not something that is foreign to the NBA game, like they're doing more back-to-backs. They've tried to reduce them. But you know what? We still have 15, which is a good chunk. What's my real reaction to that? First off is, okay, so if Kawhi Leonard is still on the regimen of load management, which he will be, that's 15 games you got to mark off of him right away. So now the maximum he can play is 67 games, which I would absolutely love if he could play 67 games, because that to me is at least 42 wins right there in those 67 games. But what I'll say is this: if he gets any sort of real injury, which he probably, and I don't mean to like spread bad juju in the air, but throughout the course of an NBA season, especially for a guy who didn't even play 8 consecutive games last year, it's very likely that he could have a sprained ankle or, just a little strain or something that causes him to miss 3 or 4 games in a row that have nothing to do with load management. And that's the thing about this load management, that if you mark 15 games off the docket with Kawhi right away, then any real injury where he has to miss, let's say, 8-9 games, now he's already below that 60-game threshold that I say he needs to be at, 60-plus games, for us to get a top 3 seed. So there you have it right there. It's like 15 back-to-backs. That's already 15 games he's probably not going to play. And now if he gets any real injury, now we're already flirting with that 60-game mark right there. So it becomes so hard to win a championship like this. And I know that's why people are saying, well, that's why we need James Harden. But again, with James Harden, I agree he'll help our regular season process. But in the playoffs, yeah, I don't trust it at all. I have more faith in us with a lower seed and no James Harden than with a higher seed and James Harden. I'm being serious. This is the 1 seed, and James Harden just happened to be some seamless fit. But anyway, in addition to the 15 back-to-backs, the Clippers will have 10 4-games in 7-night situations. I know last season we actually had that limited. That was the one part of our schedule that was pretty good, that we didn't have too many of those. We even have some 4-in-6s, including 1 in November. So that is going to be a rough stretch. And again, when you see those stretches and the caution of the Clippers medical staff over the last couple of seasons, do you think that means that Kawhi Leonard is going to miss those games or miss one of them? It's just the likelihood of them getting injured increases as well. It's just, it makes you a little bit stressed out. But here's my thing, and I've been saying this all summer. Besides the Kawhi Leonard back-to-back situation, they need to play whenever they can besides that. If they don't, and they keep doing the soreness thing or just whatever, fine. But again, we won't win the championship. So do you? You don't want to take the risk? That's fine. But you can't just waltz into the championship. And first of all, again, you don't just waltz into the playoffs thinking that you can't get injured or whatever. It can happen. So again, you got to try to go out there and win every game you can. In terms of Kawhi Leonard's back-to-back situation, I knew what we were signing up for with that. I'm okay with it. But 4 and 6 nights, if there's no back-to-backs there, I think one of them has to be a back-to-back there, right? So, yeah. Besides the back-to-backs, you got to play. How about this? I saw a statistic on ESPN. The most 3 games in 4 days stretches. The fewest in the NBA are the defending champion Denver Nuggets with 16. The most in the NBA, your LA Clippers with 25. That's absurd as far as I'm concerned. Again, it just feels as though the LA Clippers are getting shafted by the schedule-making gods. Or should I say the NBA? I mean, and if we had this young, spry team that injuries weren't as big of a concern for, it wouldn't be that big a deal. But because we are the team that is literally the poster boys for not being healthy right now, all this, most 3 and 4s, one of the highest back-to-back counts, 10 4 and 7s, some 4 and 6s, travel the most miles this season of any team. Yes, I saw that from Locked On Nuggets, our very own Matt Moore, posted that the Clippers travel the most miles of any team in the league. We have 17 games in March, which is the opposite of last season. Last season, we had so many games to start the season before the All-Star break, and then we had a lighter schedule in the second half. This season, it's the opposite, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. 17 games in March, so it's really going to be, pedal to the metal later in the season, and we're hoping that the Clipper players are healthy for that at the time. But you know why this is really happening? Because we are the third priority in our own arena. And this season is the last season that we're going to be in Crypto.com Arena or the Staples Center. And as much as I have sentimental value to that stadium, because it's the first stadium I ever attended basketball games, because Staples Center not broke ground, but it opened up when I was about 2 years old. No, a year and a half. So I didn't go to games at the Forum. I didn't go to games at the Sports Arena, which is unfortunate. I know. I hate that. But my Staples Center is the stadium that made, my memories of basketball happen there. My memories of sports happen there. I know that stadium like the back of my hand. Like I don't know any building that's not owned by a family member or a school that I attended more than Staples Center in the entire world. I don't. I truly don't. That is the honest to God truth. If I didn't live there or I didn't I would say if I didn't work there, but there's buildings I've worked in that I don't know as well as Staples Center. So I have a lot of sentimental value towards it, but this will be our last season in that stadium, and it's for the better for our organization, because this third priority scheduling is absurd. And coming up, I'm going to be getting in more depth, including the nationally televised game count and the dreaded Saturday and Sunday afternoon matinee games. How many of those do we have? Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on player props, spreads, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, so to continue on the Clippers' schedule, and if you got the memo in that first segment, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. I'm putting a smile on my face if you're watching on YouTube. I'm trying to be as positive as I can, but it's not a pretty situation. 25 instances of 3 and 4s, most in the league, travel the most miles, 10 4 and 7s, 15 back-to-backs, oh my God, I really hope Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can stay healthy. And you know what? There is a chance. I have no sources on this, but there is a chance that after the Clippers organization seeing our schedule, they're like, okay, we got to go get Harden because we don't think our players can last. But I think that's my whole issue in the first place, right? If we really don't think our players can last, if we think we really need James Harden for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to stay, on their feet and playing, then that's why I think we should break it up, because that's ridiculous. That's not a formula to win the championship when you have so much doubt about the best 2 players in your team's health. It's really not. It's not a formula to win a chip. I'm sorry. My hope is that we do stay healthy. We do finally get that luck from the basketball gods that despise our LA Clippers so damn much that we finally have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George healthy for a full playoff run with Ty Lue at the helm. But let's continue talking about some of the big takeaways from the schedule release, and that is the national televised game count, 22, which is tied for 10th in the NBA. Now, the previous seasons, besides the 2021-22 season where we knew Kawhi Leonard wasn't going to play one game, the other seasons, last year, 2021 and 2020, we were in the 30-plus range. In 2020, we were top 3, top 4 in nationally televised games because we got Kawhi and Paul, so everybody wanted to see us. But the fact that we're at 22 is a difference. It's a drop-off. You got teams like the Mavericks with Luka and Kyrie. They have more than us, which honestly, now that I think about it, is not a crazy thing. But a lot of teams, or I should say almost a third of the league, has more than us. And you might wonder, why is that? Well, one, I think our expectations, and I think that episode of me talking about the Clipper expectations is something for next week. But the expectations for the Clippers are so much lower than last year, lower than 2021, and way lower than 2020. And I think that's because of what we've seen last year. The disorganization, the dysfunction, and mainly the lack of availability of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And because of that, especially the fact that you had playoff games with neither of them playing, I think people just, the NBA doesn't know who's going to be playing on a given night when they put the Clippers on national TV. And I don't blame them one bit, because I, as a fan, don't know who's playing on a given night. So why would I put a team like that on national television 30 times? I wouldn't do that to my fans of my league. So 22 games is still a lot. If you're talking to Clipper fans that have been a fan as long as me, you would have killed for the Clippers to have 22 nationally televised games. So, and most of them fall on either NBA TV or ESPN, if I'm not mistaken. But, hey, that's just a tidbit. And I actually think it's good that we don't have as many nationally televised games. I like flowing under the radar because it feels like our best seasons come when that happens. And this team desperately needs less attention on them, to be honest. But then as far as the Saturday, Sunday matinee games, this is the stat that honestly kind of disappointed me the most. But last season we did a little better with these games. 10 Saturday/Sunday matinee games that start at either 12:30 or 1 o'clock local time. I will most likely be at almost all those. But the fact that a quarter, basically, of our home games, 10 out of 41 of our home games come in those afternoon slots that players are on the record saying they do not like, it's very disappointing. Very disappointing. Because it just further emphasizes why the Intuit Dome can't come soon enough. Because we're third priority in the stadium with the Lakers and the Kings. And, I am a Kings fan. But it's just tough that my favorite team gets third priority in the stadium and has to play 10 games in the afternoon. It's not fun for I actually don't mind the afternoon games, but as I've grown older, I've grown to like them less. The reason why I loved afternoon games as a kid is because, one, I thought Staples Center looked really pretty in the daytime, and two, because I felt as though there was no traffic. LA problems, man. That's a local thing. See, that's why I love being the host of this podcast, because I literally grew up going to Clipper games every single year of my life. So, there's just, I'm Clippers through and through. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you what our pregame song was at tip-off before games in the 2000s. That little nerd stuff like that. I can tell you what song we played after we won games back in 2008. Seriously. But my point is, I liked early games as a fan because there was no traffic. But now that I'm driving myself to the games as an adult, I love the night games because I don't mind the traffic anymore when it's Staples Center, because I love going to Clipper games so much, and because it's just a better chance of a sellout at night, more eyes on it at night. So when it comes to Dodger Stadium, night games all the way. But Staples Center, I've honestly grown to be like that as well. But yeah, Firebod, the Clipper beat writer for SI Now, said the Clippers look like a team that desperately needs a new arena. 15 back-to-backs, 10 morning games at home. It's just tough. So this is the last year. So I want to say to all the Clipper fans as well, I know some have very mixed opinions of Crypto.com Arena or Staples Center. A lot of people talk about the experiences they've had with ushers and stuff like that. I've actually never had an experience with an usher that's an undercover Laker fan, believe it or not, and I've been going to games there my whole life. So I guess that's just my luck. But I always have had good experiences with Staples Center staff, always. So for me, it's going to be really, really bittersweet moving into a new stadium. Especially, one thing for me is way tougher is getting on the 405 going to the Intuit Dome as opposed to the 10. The 405 is such a nightmare at that time of day. I am not looking forward to that with the Intuit Dome in the slightest. And getting out of Inglewood, I worked at SoFi Stadium last year. It's not the parking lot situation, but it's the blocks on Manchester and right when you exit the Forum or the SoFi. It's just a minute before you get anywhere out of that traffic. So, Staples Center is the easiest venue in LA to get out of and get on the freeway to me. So I'm going to really miss that. But I will say that we need this. We need this so badly because I'm tired of this scheduling garbage. I'm really tired of it. To have the opportunity to play on, I will say, as a basketball fan that's grown up watching Clippers and Lakers every single night, I love that they can't play home games at the same time. I love that because I get to watch more of their games, each of them. But as far as what's best for the team, sometimes we're just going to be okay, and it's just going to be, I just got to be okay with the fact that the Clippers and Lakers could be playing on the same night. So I got to watch the Clipper game. If I really want to watch the Lakers for my analysis, I just got to record it. Because, mind you, I want to make this very clear. I don't watch Laker games to root for them. I just watch them because of the other LA team. See, yeah, I'm calling them the other LA team. Ha! Because this is Locked On Clippers, suckers. But I watch them because of the other LA team and they're, talk of the town. So I just grew up watching Kobe, and it's just always been a thing that I watch both LA teams. And that's why I started making content on my own channel for the Lakers, because I was like, if I'm going to do this, they have such a big fan base, why not just talk about it? But by no means do I like sit there rooting for them. Like Clipper games, I'm on edge, you know. So by the way, speaking of the Lakers, that's a good transition for me, because the 4 matchups, I know a lot of fans like to circle those games on their calendar. This season, we play the Lakers for the first time on November 1st. That is going to be a Laker home game, so early in the season. January 7th is going to be the second one, and it's also going to be on the Lakers' home floor. And then just a little over 2 weeks later, we play them on our home floor, January 23rd, LAL at LAC, and then February 28th, Lakers at Clippers. So by March, we'll have no games against the Lakers anymore. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about the start of the season, the first 10 games, and the opening night clash with all right. So to close out, I want to talk about the start of the season. And before I do that, I got to say one thing, that the Clippers are one of 9 teams with 15 back-to-backs this season. Every team in the league is going to play at least 13. That comes from LA Clipper beat writer Justin Russo. So just that's some more context for you on that situation. But as far as the start of the season, let's get into that, right? So the Clippers, I think, don't have the same favorable schedule that they did last season to start. But I will say this. Our first 4 games should all be wins. And then the next 6 games are going to be tough. So let's start out. Your Clippers' first game of the 2023-24 season is opening night at home at the Staples Center. Wednesday, October 25th. I will be in attendance versus the Portland Trail Blazers. Will they have Damian Lillard suiting up? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Since Kawhi Leonard is expected to be ready for training camp, so he should be ready for that game. Maybe he'll be on a minutes restriction. I don't think Paul George should be on a minutes restriction. We should win that game, no matter if Kawhi's healthy or not, especially if Dame is out. Especially. That's going to be Scoot Henderson's first NBA game, which is going to be exciting, but I don't care. I want it to be a horrible first game for him because the Clippers are a better team than Portland, whether they have Dame or not. It shouldn't be an easy game, but let's take care of business. Last season we were 1-0. The season before we weren't. 2021, we were also 1-0. See, the thing is we played the Lakers both of those years, and 2020. So whenever we play the Lakers opening night, we always 1-0. But in recent memory, of course. But we're not playing them this time. It's great, though, that our first game is going to come at home. I love that. Last year we didn't get to say that. So hopefully we can get the job done and beat Portland to start out the season. Now, the next game at Utah, never an easy place to play. But we are still the better team. If we have Kawhi Leonard, we should win there. I'm sorry, but we should. And that is not a back-to-back, is it? It's not. We have a day off. So Kawhi Leonard should be playing in that game. The Jazz, Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen. They got that guy Keontae George that I talked about on this podcast when he just lit us up in Summer League. But that's going to be his first NBA game. Who else they got? Jordan Clarkson, Talen Horton-Tucker, Colin Sexton, Kelly Olynyk. Again, I think we should beat these guys. I really think we should beat them. If we can win at Utah to start the season after winning against Portland, that's a really good, in my opinion, momentum boost to just take us forward. Then our next game is against San Antonio at home, against at Staples Center. So Victor Wembanyama, all the hype. I think we should absolutely win that one too. I think the Utah game is the toughest of those 3 because it's in Utah, and that's never an easy place to play. But we should absolutely beat the Spurs. I don't care, about how great Wembanyama is. It's no reason why he should be better than Paul George or Kawhi 2 or 3 games into his NBA career. So we should win and go 3-0. Like, there's no excuse here. We really should be going 3-0 in these games. And then on Halloween, we play against the Orlando Magic at the Staples Center. So again, a nice young rising team. Markelle Fultz, Wendell Carter, Aaron Gordon, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, a very solid team that could be in play-in territory this season in the East. But I'm going to tell you this right now. We lost both games to them last year. One where Kawhi Leonard didn't play with the load management, and which was one of the worst losses of the season. And that was a matinee game on a Saturday, I believe, at 12:30. And then there was the game against Orlando where Kawhi and Paul were on that strict minutes restriction where they pulled them out in overtime. We need to beat them this season. Let's get 2 wins against them like we did in 2020. So we should beat them. We should beat them. And Kawhi Leonard, based on what I know, should be playing all these games. So then we should be 4-0. Listen, if you start a season 4-0, that's huge. Last season we were 2-2. I know it doesn't sound like much, but 4-0 for momentum, for confidence would be such a great start. And let me tell you something. We need to probably go 4-0 because here are our next couple games. Then we play that game against the Lakers on ESPN. That's our first nationally televised game. So again, those first 4 games are going to be only with Brian Seaman and Mike Fratello or whoever, like the local broadcast. So there's not going to be as many eyeballs on us. Let's get the job done. Let's get that sneaky 4-0 start. Let's get people saying, oh, the Clippers are 4-0. Maybe they will do something this year. Maybe this is the year that they can stay healthy and put something together. At the Lakers will be everybody's first look at us. We obviously have that 12-game winning streak going into this game. I have a hunch, and I said it on the podcast with Brian Kamenetsky for Locked On Lakers. I have a hunch that just because the Lakers are a really good team now, they just made the conference finals, that streak might be broken this year. It might. But as long as we win this, I don't really care if we win the season series with them or not. I don't care about the regular season in terms of season series or beating a particular team. I want the best record. I don't care about that. But, of course, it's funny and satisfying to beat the Lakers so much. So if we can win the season series again, that would be really nice. If we could sweep them again, that'd be hilarious. But let's just see if we can win that game. If we can win that game and extend the streak 5-0, oh, man. I'll tell you what. I think the Lakers are going to go so hard in that game. I really feel like because they know that streak's there. I feel like they'll finally just be like, okay, fellas, let's go treat this like a playoff game and win. But who knows? And then we go at New York, at Brooklyn after that. Those are not easy games. Brooklyn easier than New York right now, but those are not easy games. It'd be great if we can get both of those wins, and I think we can if we're playing our best. I think we're better than both of those teams when fully healthy, but not going to be easy. And then we play Dallas in Dallas. So it's technically 4 straight road games. Lakers, Knicks, Nets, and Mavs. And those are all teams that were in the playoffs last year, except for Dallas, who I don't really need to talk about why they're a problem for us in ways because of Luka. But if Kawhi's playing, honestly, I'm not too worried about Dallas. But again, it's just not going to be an easy game. And then we get Memphis back at the Staples Center on our first Sunday afternoon game. But I forgot that John Morant's not going to play. So we should get the dub, honestly. Not to say that they're easy to beat without Ja, but we should win against them without Ja. And then at Denver. So those are our next 6 right there. At Denver, I don't even need to tell you why that's a tough one. But the in-season tournament, by the way, I want to say the games fall Friday, November 24th against New Orleans. November 25th against Dallas. Honestly, let me pull up the schedule on that one because the in-season tournament games can be a little confusing. But let me just throw out some other facts until I get that up. So from December 29th to January 31st, I'm not kidding when I use that big of a time frame, there's no easy game. Literally no easy game from December 29th all the way to January 31st. We have our 7-game Grammy trip from January 26th to February 5th. And then there's 4 instances in the season where we play the same team twice in a row. The Spurs, the Dubs, the Warriors, the Blazers, and the Phoenix Suns. And Phoenix Suns one comes in April. So there's those 4 instances where we play the same team 2 times in a row. Let me see. Okay, I got the schedule up now. The in-season tournament games, the first one comes at Dallas on... Oh, yeah, so the game I talked about that's at Dallas in that stretch, that 4-game road... I don't want to say road trip because one of them's against the Lakers, but that's an in-season tournament game. That Friday night, 5:30 local start for us at Dallas on November 10th. And then the game at Denver on November 14th is in-season tournament as well. Then Friday against Houston at Staples Center is another one of those in-season tournament games. And then a week later, we play the Pelicans at home, and that's the last in-season tournament group game. So we got to win the 2 home games, I think, for sure, Houston and New Orleans. And if we can steal the Dallas game or the Denver game, then I think we should qualify for the next round. But anyway, those are my takeaways from the schedule. Moral of the story, Intuit Dome can't come soon enough. It's just a drag. It's brutal. We're just not prioritized, and this season's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. It's going to be tough to stay healthy, but hopefully the guys can do it. They got to go into it not too cautious, though, man. I really think we got to go out there and try to win as many games as we can, and if they get injured, well, then we're just seeing that they can't stay healthy, and we might have to move a different direction the following season. But all I'm worried about right now is that first game against Portland. That's all that matters. Set your sights opening night, Clipper Nation. I can't wait to see you there. But, of course, we've got so many episodes coming before them, and this is where you can find them. Locked On Clippers on all your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time that we post a video. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers, you already know the deal. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Clips. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.